-1 degree, -7 degrees, -1 degree, -1 degree, 0 degrees.
Okay everybody, welcome back to an episode of
-1 degree,
Optic Nerve. So
-12 degrees,
what you've just seen there
-24 degrees,
is the compass / spirit level app on my iPhone. So
-2 degrees,
what I thought I'd talk about today is how does somebody with no vision become a maker. I think, you know, that's the vernacular at the moment. So, well, it's using some great tools and gadgets and gizmos like the iPhone. So what you saw there was the spirit level that I used to put up this rack and shelving. So it was just to show that things are level. And before I get too deep into this video about how I do things in the workshop, really, it's important that I do say, obviously everything you do, whether you're sighted or visually impaired, you have to be so on your safety game it's untrue.
screen dimmed,
So obviously I don't want anybody, especially anyone in the BVI community, to go out and say, oh well, Chris has got this chop saw and Chris has got this bandsaw and these lathes. So don't just rush out and get stuff because you've heard me talk about it. I've got a lot of practice now and I am skilled and very comfortable using all the equipment in here, and I am extra cautious when I use things. So please, always first and foremost, safety. So I won't labour the point. You'll know what to do to make sure things are above board and safe in your own environment. So anyway, so how does a blind guy make things? Well, basically there's no magic to it. There's no sorcery, it's not rocket science. It's just about telling yourself that you can do it and you really, really want to do it. So why not have a go? Now, there are some things in my workshop that I would consider essentials. And one is obviously my iPhone with the voiceover options turned on. One is a talking tape measure, which is pretty self-explanatory, so that will help you find out measurements and lengths. A couple of other things are things like glue guns. Now, I made a potting bench for the greenhouse for Nicola, and the initial first fix was all done by just holding things in place with hot glue until I could get some screws in there, drill the holes and screw. So it acts like a clamp and it works very quickly and efficiently. If you're not used to using hot glue guns, or you're going to use one, just be aware that they're really, really very hot and they can burn. So have a jug or a big bowl of cold water, and then if you do get any hot glue, just immerse your finger straight away in the cold water, and it'll just take that burning sensation away pretty quickly. So I've got a couple of glue guns. Generally I only use one at a time, but it's always good to have a replacement if one goes faulty, and a good supply of glue sticks. And I also have two drills, cordless drills, and I have one for drilling and one for screwing. You see, being a blind maker, it's all about working smarter, not harder. And I've got in here, I'll just if I just move around, I've got the hobby lathe here. If I over there, I've got the trade lathe. Round the back here, I've got this lathe, which is 36 inch between centres, so I could do some long work on that if needed. And over here, I've got the pen lathe. So the reason for this is from a blind and visually impaired standpoint, it's that I've got the hobby lathe now set up for drilling pen blanks, and once they've been drilled and the tube's been glued in, I can go over to the pen lathe and do the turning, so that makes things quicker for me and I can be more efficient. And if somebody orders a pen, I can expedite it that little bit quicker because I have dedicated machines set up for certain jobs. And let's just move that out of the way, and then this lathe here now, which is my main workhorse, does everything else. It does all the bowls and goblets and candlesticks and everything like that. So that's my thinking behind having a few machines, and it works really, really well for me. So obviously around here we've got some machines that have got very sharp blades on, like the bandsaw, and if I swing around there you should see the chop saw. Now obviously massively dangerous, but if you've got your hands well clear and you use push sticks and you use fences and all the correct guards, take your time, make sure your hands are well clear, and above all, do not go in and reach for work while blades are still spinning. You should be fine. Just take your time and always think deeply, and just be comfortable before you press that start button, and you should be able to do things that you didn't think were possible. So I have a lot of things in the workshop that are arranged. I should be getting that rack over there, hopefully. They're arranged in a certain way so I always know where they are. A lot of the times, if you're starting off, labels and like the pen friend that we spoke about in an earlier episode, very handy if you want to locate things. But I know where most things are now just by memory in the workshop, and certainly I can tell what they are by picking up and having a quick feel. So that's really all I can say about that. You'll get used to where your things are. So there's no reason why you can't be creative and have a workshop and make some amazing things. Interesting fact that in the Victorian times, a lot of blind people that the system didn't forget about were trained and employed as cabinet makers. A lot of them were musicians and church organists, but also a lot of blind people became carpenters and cabinet makers because they had this amazing sense of touch and they could tell exactly what they were doing with saws and wood. And yeah, I know, amazing facts, but there you go. So what I'm going to do is just put the camera back on the tripod, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay folks, what you heard there was my sharpening station. Now, I used to have a high-speed conventional grinder, but it scared the living hell out of me, so I went for a slow-speed whetstone sharpening system. Now this one is made by Jet, which is an American brand, and it works really well for me. Now, the importance of having sharp tools is one of, well, it's worthy of a long discussion, but a blunt tool has to be forced to make a cut, and even though you think, oh well, it's blunt, it'll still be sharp enough to cut right through flesh and into bone. So a sharp tool requires less effort to do an efficient, safe job. So it's important that you always have your tools nice and sharp. So this comes with a variety of jigs, and I use this predominantly for my wood turning tools, and the actual stone that does the work
0 inches.
is, at the moment,
2 inches.
2 inches thick, and I don't know if this tape measure will get in there alright.
8 and 1/8 inches. 8 and 1/16 inches. 9 and 15/16.
Well, it's saying about 9
9 and 13/16 inches. 0 inches.
about 9 inches. So obviously it's worn down a bit now, but you can get jigs to
Turning off in 5 seconds.
use knives and plane blades and lots of different workshop and household items that need a sharp bevel on them. So it's a worthy addition. Definitely safer than the high-speed ones. It's very handy for me, and you're getting consistent sharp bevels on your tools, and it's so safe to use that there'll be no anxiety for you. So highly recommended, a good sharpening system if you're interested in becoming a serious maker, wood carver, wood turner, anything where you would require a sharp blade. So highly recommended and very safe to use. And then if we just move this over here, how's that there now? I'll just get my piece of string. Right, so that should be fine. So there you can see my pillar drill. So basically I always just have it set on its deepest plunge depth, and I will just take my time, and using my talking tape measure and my vernier calipers, and I'll use them as a depth gauge. I'll check depth on things like that. Very easy to use. It has a safety guard and it has the emergency stop button up here, so that enables me to drill safe, consistent, professional holes. So excuse me, nothing really remarkable to say about that apart from it's a cracking pillar drill, and you know, a worthy addition. Any pillar drill is going to make things a lot easier for you. And next we have here a selection here of spring calipers, which I can set using the talking tape measure, and then I can use them for internal and external diameters, as well as, let's just feel here, a set of vernier calipers again, which I can set using the talking tape measure. I've got a huge array of hand tools, which they are what they are, and you use them the way that anybody else would use them. Obviously the trouble with having no vision is measuring and marking, so that's where you need a good talking tape measure and a good marking out tool like this awl here. So every few days I'll give it a scratch on some abrasive, and I scratch marks so I can feel them, because a pencil's no good. And I've also got here the Veritas centre finder, which puts a blade score line in the wood to help me find centres, because again that's tactile, whereas a pencil line isn't. But you know, my senses are getting that good now that I can feel the graphite left by a pencil, and sometimes I can feel that, and it just feels that slightly bit smoother where the graphite has lubricated the surface. So I'm beginning to be able to feel pencil lines a bit better now. So it's just amazing how your body can overcome. So if I just, in fact, what I'm going to go to is just go over here, and if I just pan, hopefully nice and slow, you'll see the vast array of machinery and tools that I've got now, and it's all used. None of it is here just for vanity's sake. It's all used. So if somebody is listening to this and they're visually impaired or blind, get somebody to describe it to you. And over here on the left, starting, I've got, let's just have my hand out so I can feel when I get there. I've got all my adhesives and some stains and finishes, and then I have wall racks moving around in a clockwise rotation, wall racks and benches. I've got the pen lathe, and then I'll have the pillar drill, the sharpening system, and then I've got the bandsaw, the lathes in the middle, I've got a chop saw, and then coming round to here I've got a belt and disc sharpener. So yeah, you can use anything that a sighted person can use. Just go about it sensibly, methodically, and you'll be fine, and just get in lots of practice, have lots of fun, and you can do anything you want to do, you can do. There's always a way to solve a problem, and you'll get a lot of pleasure in working that problem. Anything is possible. Always say that to yourself. You can do it with hard work, patience, belief in yourself, and some good kit and some good aids for the blind and visually impaired community. So that's really how I'm able to do what I do, and there's a lot more that I still need to learn and attempt, but that's the journey. That's the amazing journey that I'm on. So that's it for now. So this episode of Optic Nerve was some of the things that I use to help me make things. So thanks for popping by, and whether or not you want to get into, you know, card making or some joinery or carving, or, you know, I've never tried it, but, you know, pottery and getting a potter's wheel, go for it. You go for it, and you can do it, and believe you me, you can do it. So give it a go. So thanks everybody, bye.